This is the not-for-sale Kia Forte race car with a blister.
Typically, as we go live, F-Dot and I have a discussion about whether or not we even want to go live.
Oh, okay.
You know what I mean?
It's like, do we really want to be
yeah,
here?
do we still want to do it?
What's the point of existing?
It's hard to think about waking up in the morning.
Yeah,
I don't like to do it.
It's like...
Mostly, I just wish I could sleep.
All the dark thoughts going through my head at night.
It's scary
keeping me up.
Right. And with you being somewhat... I mean, you're new here. It's your first time. You're very experienced, obviously, in front of people. But you're new to the show.
Okay.
You know, I just thought I'd bring you in the same way I bring everyone.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. As long as you feel comfortable, I just hope that you do.
You know, with you, Finch, I'm always comfortable.
There we go. Anatoliy, what's going on?
My favorite co-caster.
That's it. Oh, thank you. Look
Legit.
at that. That's a big compliment. Totally.
This guy.
You rock as well. We have a really good team, though. I don't care about Casa. Everyone's really strong. What's going on, everybody? Finch here. I'm talking about Anatoliy. No F-Dot this time. He's in
New York.
He's in New York, as I said, trying to like go through a series of clues through America's history to try and find some treasure. I imagine that's what he's up to, even still to this moment. I appreciate you being here at the talk show. We're on my channel right now, so I assume you're there. That's where you're watching me. I'm gonna put this up on YouTube afterwards. It's just Finch on YouTube. If you want to go watch the VODs in the back, it's exhibition on YouTube as well. Totally gonna tweet for us. That way people know where to go to find the action. We got a lot of stuff to talk about. It was a kind of a crazy week. I would say for Smite, not just in the SPL, the SML was a little bit wild as well with Optimus Gang finding some wins. There's a lot going on that we want to try and go through. If there's any topics you all out there want us to hit, make sure you drop us. Make sure you drop some comments, put them on Twitter, say it here in chat. My chat's gonna be back here. Hopefully there'll be some people in there, and we'll go through and talk a little bit about them. So the first thing that we kind of have to obviously talk about. Splice. Take down E United.
Yes, they did.
It's wild. We're all like, that can't happen, right? Splice is doing better, but they can't touch EU. They're undefeated.
Sure.
And then they do it.
And then they do it.
It's nuts. Like, well, what happened there? What did it talk to me about? Like,
so it was definitely a little bit of E United dropping the ball in picks and bans more than it was their gameplay.
Sure.
Splice definitely playing up, I would say, a little bit, because the way they started spring, the way they started the summer was just not ideal.
They've had some struggles.
You look at Aurora and Cyclone Spin, right? You think that like the chemistry and synergy between these two players playing since like Fat Chunks Assemble. Honest, like you laugh, but like they've been playing together, like those two with Kiki as well, like just casually, right? Like outside of Smite, I'm sure they play games as well. So you think like when Splice was introduced in Season 5, like this would be like a top 3 team in general. And spring and summer, not so much, but now in the fall, they've been stepping it up. Cyclone Spin in this specific set, the wins that he got was on the Freya. And Splice definitely prioritized this pick, you can tell, because in game number 2, when they were second pick, Splice, United chose first pick, Splice banned away the Freya.
Right.
And they were like too afraid of that. And I think that's what just allowed them to really win. Also, the fact that I believe it was Aurora playing Cerberus in both of the wins as well. The combination of the Cerberus and the Freya, that damage amplification, you just can't ignore the Ghastly Breath, man. Because Moswell in game 1 was playing Zhongqi, where they got the win. Chang'e for Divios as well. Like they had 4 magical. Sino popped off on the Mercury.
He was very free to do so, right? Because they went 4 magicals around. He could build that crit build he went. I believe he went no boots every time he played the Mercury as well. Yeah, I think he went like Golden Blade right now, Hasten Katana as well. And we'll talk a little bit about Golden Blade as well, since it's like all over the place right now and it's so big. But to me, and I'm glad you said that, I don't know if it was the United playing down. I think Splice just stepped up. Because United looked great in Game 2. Looked as good as we've seen them look all split. But in Game 3, it was back and forth. It was so close. And Splice just kind of beat them straight up, I would say, in that game. And I gave credit to Cyclone Spin on the day. I gave some credit to them every time I talk about it, because I've been kind of critical of the Hunter picks. Sure. You know, he's been doing Izanami, he's been doing Shibalanke for the most part.
A little Neath.
A little bit of Neath, which we did see from him. And I was like, well, play some of the stuff that's strong right now. I'm sure we can do that. And he played Freya, and he looked great. So, I mean, I think Splicer, I think they're for real. I think they're here.
I think that you said that United wasn't playing down, but they got a little too ambitious, I think, in game number 3, specifically around Fire Giants. It was a 5-on-5 straight up around the 18-minute mark where Roar went in, pulled 4 people.
That was nuts.
With a Stygian tournament. Mousesports playing Upwash.
It's been a good week for Cerberus at Fire Giant fights.
Oh yeah,
if you
apparently.
count the energy one as well. Yeah, it's been a good week apparently.
That was wild. And then Mousesports playing the Upwash in game number 3, and which was funny because Benji decided to lock in Chang'e into Cerberus and into the Outwash, 2 gods that have anti-healing. So that's why I think United kind of dropped the ball in picks and bans for those losses. That was a factor. And then after the Divio's great ultimate disruption at 18-minute mark, the 25-minute mark, they tried again. Like, they tried to go for another Fire Giant, and they fought into Mosswall's Outwash ultimate. So much slows, Benji gets caught out too far forward. Once he uses his immunity, Divio's playing the Xing Chen, his own individual unique style, just constantly pulls him back in with the ultimate.
And that's the part that I thought really surprised me, is how stubborn they were about that healer in the solo lane, right? It really worked in game 2.
The Aphrodite.
There was no answer to the Aphrodite, right? There was nothing that they could do about it, and so I get why they wanted to go back. But Moswell locked in the Opwash. I think it was their second pick, right? Before they picked any kind of healer into it. They picked the Chang'e and Terra into the Opwash. They're like, we're going to make this happen. Who cares? And Double Hunter, who obviously are going to be building some lifesteal as well. I don't know if they did in the mid lane, but for sure in the Hunter role. Which is, and that's, I like that from E United. I like them being stubborn and obstinate, and we're going to beat you no matter what with our stuff, right? But that's the other side of it, is that they got blown up. They lost that set on the back end. It's not too much harm. They're definitely going to be top seed, I think, no matter what. But you wonder if that same thing's going to fly when they play Energy, when they play Dig.
I think there's 2 things that United can learn from this set. Number 1 is stop focusing out Sino in the ban department. Like, they focused out him in terms of banning away the nausea. I believe in all the games, if I'm not mistaken. And game number 1, Mercury, like, Sino popped off in the Mercury. Game number 3, he got his stapled Erlang Shen anyway, right? So they kind of forgot about him there. And I think another thing that they need to focus about is the Freya, because the way Cyclone Spin was playing the Freya. And the third thing also, which not just for United, but for everyone as a collective unit, is the Xing Chen. Divio's really putting it on display in game number 3. This is a great strategy against double hunters with the Furious Roar mitigating their damage. Has plenty of control. You add the combination of the Xing Chen alongside the Cerberus, the pancake flip, the knock up into the root, paralyzing spin on top of it, doing so much damage. It's almost obnoxious how much setup that Splice got away with.
It was a ton, wasn't it, in that draft that they had. But wasn't enough, though, to kind of change the way you look at the top of EU. Do you still feel like, or not EU, but NA rather, United's name is the worst for this kind of discussion?
I know, it really is.
I absolutely hate it. I don't know what you all are doing. Great org, great brand. You guys do a great job. It's very confusing when you're in North America. Does that change the way you view the top of North America, though? Or do you think Splice now are cemented top 2? Even if they don't get the spot, have they shown you enough maybe to make you say they're the second best team? Do you think they might even be better than United? Did this set enough to change how you look at the top of it?
So I think that Splice has been more consistent than Space Station in the past couple of weeks. But
here in fall,
I think that Space Station's ceiling is higher than Splice's. So I think at both of these teams' best day, I think Annister carries harder than Sino will ever carry. It just matters which Annister shows up that day.
I'm right there with you. Space Station have been a little bit slow to get Veneno on board, I think. There have been some times where he's made tried to make some hero plays I don't think work, where he hasn't seemed on the same page. But then there's games like their CLG set where they look unbeatable, and you're like, okay, I just want to watch Space Station play all day. So I'm right there with you. They need, if they can play a little bit more consistently, I still think they're the team with more of a ceiling. But this Splice team, the way they're playing right now, the duo lane in particular is really impressive to me. Sino has stepped up his game, and Moswell doesn't look like a last-minute addition anymore. He looks like he fits on this roster. He's been playing these immobile mages. Maybe there's some punishment there. You know, some Zeus has come out. We've been the Opwash comes out as well. That's his style right now, these big burst immobile mages. Maybe if they punish that, there's a weakness. But right now, I think Splice are just better than Space Station.
Yeah,
if they play, I take them right now.
Well, that's next week's matchup, actually. Space Station Gaming up against Splice. That's an important one to determine who's going to be almost guaranteed to lock in number 2.
That's right. And you can see Jameson, awesome job back there. He doesn't want me to say that. Jameson, you're trash. You're doing trash. Much better, much preferred. He's got the standings up here to take a look at. Splice are on top right now with 2 games to go, and I believe Space Station have just this set that they're going to be playing. But the way that the standings works out, all that doesn't matter. What matters is who wins their set when they play next week. Splice up against Space Station. It's so huge. I'm so excited for it. It's going to be happening on Wednesday as well, the first NA one of the week. Totally, I have to ask you, since you're here, since you're my analyst, my chair 2, who's winning this set?
Oof.
What up, Anthony?
Honestly, it's so difficult to really tell just based off the players, based off of what they pick. I'd rather just flip a coin and guess from there, because that's the 50-50 toss-up, because Splice have looked good. They gave E United their first loss. I think that alone is going to determine like my decision to go with Splice. The fact that they're the first team to strike blood against United. That
definitely favors them. I think if I pick anyone, it's like a 55-45, right? No one is a huge favorite going into this. I think I do give it a little bit to Splice the way they've been playing lately. I think they are the ones that I would pick, not since I have to, about who's going into that matchup. And what my focus is onto the duo lane. If you can slow down Cyclone and Aurora, because they play aggressive, Aurora's going to pick like RDO almost every game if you let him, and he's going to play super in your face. He's going to dive too deep. If you can punish that, then I think you can beat that team. But if you let Aurora be almost like another damage dealer for them, if you let him be like another solo laner, then I don't think you can beat Splice when they get away with that.
So I think there's going to be a big bloodbath in this game, because the way Space Station has been starting their games is like having Barracuda alongside Venenu to push that middle lane, invade red buffs on top of that, where...
Wait, Hindu's in the chat talking shit? Is that true?
Wait.
He said, be a man and say it.
I fucking said it.
What? Hindu? This is... So here's
savage
the thing.
Hindu is
I got your back.
Coming out of me.
I said, Hindu man, do you want to do the show? Hindu man's like, nah, I don't want to do it. I said, Hindu man totally stepped up and said, I'll come be on the show when F. couldn't be here. Totally, he's here.
I'm here.
He stepped up. Hindu man's sitting away somewhere like a little bitch.
Who's the bitch now?
That's right. Look at that. I got Toli's back. Don't you call my man's again.
So anyway, there's going to be a lot of bloodbath in the beginning of the game because of the way Space Station has been opening up their strategies. Barracuda with Venenu pushing mid lane, invading red buff. I think Splice is going to do their homework, realize what they need to do to make sure that Mousesports doesn't fall behind. And that's going to be the key factor. You can't allow Venenu any sort of bully pressure against Mousesports, because if you lose mid lane, you're going to start losing the rest of the game.
That's a good point. There's definitely a chance, I think, for Venenu and Andenster to perhaps be, oh no, I'm messing everything up. Don't look at it, chat.
Don't show that.
There's a chance for, that's what we're talking about. That's our run of show we're going to run through. You all got a glimpse. There's a chance that Venenu, I think, could get a bit punished in this matchup.
Possibly.
I think so. And I have to say it every time, I have to clarify. Venenu is super strong. I love him on this team. I think they're better for it, and he's a top-tier mid laner.
Yep.
But right now, because of their growing pains, I think there's a chance he could potentially be exploited there. So the Moswell matchup there is important. Again, I'm very much focused on this dual line as well. I think Splice could absolutely take this one. And if they do, then you put Space Station on the group stages, and I get a little bit worried about them in those placement stages.
So the way I look at this matchup also, there's another factor to consider is the first 5 minutes of the game. Whoever wins that first 5 minutes, I think is going to win the game.
Wow.
Because Space Station Gaming, once they have a lead, they don't give it up more often than not.
Right.
They're very consistent about making sure that they're careful and safe, methodical, similar to how Dignitas have been doing it in the European region, where some of their games are almost averaging beyond that 35-40 minute mark for Europe. Space Station Gaming is not as long as Dignitas's, but they definitely made those plays where they don't go for the end or they don't go for the backdoor Phoenix play because there's just too many other safer options that they want to make sure they check off.
I'm trying to slow down Space Station. Navid UK is saying that the bottom 4 EU teams would rather have Space Station down in the pools for the placement stage
than Splice.
I
think I can see that. Splice is more unpredictable.
Right.
There's more, because when you look at game in, game out from Space Station, they do so many similar things. They don't really stretch too far out of their comfort zone, whereas Splice is just so volatile. Like, you can't predict what Divios is going to do, what Aurora is going to do, how they're going to open. Are they going to 5-man invade you? Are they going to invade your speed buff? I've seen a couple of instances where they 3-man invade, I believe, occasionally from time to time. So Splice definitely on the reckless side.
And I interviewed Sino a little bit a while ago. He said that same thing. And sometimes it's hard for him jungling for Divios because of how unpredictable he can be sometimes and how hard it is to know exactly what it is that he's going to be doing. So for sure, that can be difficult for their opponent. So I think there's something to the idea that they might prefer Space Station, a team that they've played before, too. Remember this, they've been around so long that these EU teams have experience playing against Jeff and Barra and Baskin. But Splice, that's not a roster of people that make it to international competition all the time, right?
Sure.
Like, how often has Moswell or Sino played up against any of those European teams, like, in a competitive format?
So those players, no, they haven't.
Right.
But if you look at the other players, Cyclone Spin has been around the block in Season 2 with Envious and AFK before that. And then you look at Aurora with Team Eager, making it to Worlds with Zatman and co., being able to have that experience under his belt. So Divios as well, Cog Red, being in the TSM roster for Season 2. He's had a lot of LAN experience against these European teams. So I think the collective LAN experience of those 3 players has helped Sino and Moswell transition into the Season 5 competitive point that they're at.
I think it'll help them for sure. We'll see if they can make it work. I am predicting that it'll be Splice winning, Space Station down in groups. EU probably is a little bit happier about that, and Splice get that bye to Dreamhack. I mean, could you have imagined saying that in spring or summer?
No.
Not even
I would not have put, but I am going to give it to Splice after their victory over United.
Seems like they have a good chance of winning it. In North America, it's a little bit easier, right? It's United for sure, and then either Splice or Space Station.
Pretty much.
2. Over in Europe, maybe it's a little bit more clumped up, I would say. Dignitas finally dropping 1 set. I think the twist is Space Station wins it. That's a good-looking script then. How's that a twist? How's that? Handyman, shut up. I'm reading Handyman's comments, and he's a fool. But over in Europe, right, it's a little bit more clumped up. Dig dropped that set to Energy, which was absolutely nuts. Love watching Energy play because apparently they do literally whatever they want to. Energy are right there with them for 2nd spot, but Obey could still make it in on this. We're talking a little bit about how Obey could get in.
And the fact that Obey beat Energy in that Week 5 matchup just keeps their top 2 seed alive.
Right.
Energy currently 6-3, Obey 5-3. At worst, Energy can finish 6-4. At best, Obey can finish 7-3. And even if both teams are 7-3 with a +8 performance, it's very possible that these teams are going to be completely tied.
Right.
Like not only in the 7-3 category, but the +8 category, but in the head-to-head record because Week 2, Energy won that matchup 2-0, and now Week 5, Obey won that 2-0, and then from what you told me earlier, it would come down to the previous spring and summer performances.
I believe so. It would go to like this. They would look at the Season 5 zoomed out, right?
That's like a Cooper question at that point.
Absolutely. We would certainly be going over to our admins.
I would rather see them play like a best of 1, actually.
That'd be so hype.
Just make them play a best of 1. Because like the chances of them being 7-3 because Energy play Mouse next week is unlikely. The fact that Energy is not going to find the win there. But Obey's next week matchup is against Dignitas and Mouse.
Now, Obey could qualify right on through in a weird world where Energy have to 2-1 Mouse and then Obey 4-0 everyone they play next week, which I believe is also Mouse and Dignitas, if I'm correct on that one. So Obey could squeak right on through without having to worry about any kind of tiebreakers or anything like that. But more than likely, Energy are able to find the win over Mouse, and then Obey run into some troubles with Dig or can't cleanly beat off or clearly beat Mouse. But I'm looking towards that match, man. That Energy Mouse one, it's important. If that's a 2-1, Obey have a lifeline to try and make it through. Absolutely.
Because then Energy would be at the +7 marker, and as long as Obey can 4-0 cleanly, they'll be also 7-3, but with a +8, granting them that not head-to-head record, but the tiebreaker necessarily. And Rival are still technically in it, but it's so slim for them to get in because right now they're currently 5-4. They're going to be playing up against.
Oh, it's Energy SK. I'm sorry. Go back up. Oh, we're talking about wrong guy, not Mouse. Sorry, Energy SK is the matchup. I'm sorry, y'all. Energy SK. That's even less hard to believe.
Hold on, Week 6. Oh yeah, Energy is playing SK. Yeah. Oh.
You're right, tied up. They played Mouse already. It's Energy SK.
Okay, yeah. I don't see
even harder for that 2-1 to happen.
Yikes.
Even harder, Chad.
Big yikes on that.
But it could happen. So here's the thing. SK have been getting some 2-1s or 1-2s lately.
Yeah.
It's been happening.
So okay, they found one game against Mouse.
Yes.
Where else did they find their victory? I'm looking over.
I think they had a couple of 1-2s this week. So when it's hard for them to win, we've kind of given Fails a hard time, and I think rightfully so. So I'll lay off him a little bit. But you know, if Funballer can stay even in the dual lane over there, they certainly have a good chance. Lobster, as I think, maybe not been playing consistently well, but certainly still has that potential. It's not impossible for them to grab that win up against Energy. It's definitely not likely, though. SK making Worlds, no, there's 0% chance of that. That's not, go away. I don't want to hear those words. Go away from me. But in SK maybe winning one game in the set here against Energy, I feel like that certainly is a thing that could happen.
They beat up a kind of dismantled Rival in the previous week in one game, so take that with a grain of salt. They beat out Mouse as well. Take that with a grain of salt as they kind of shifted their roster around a little bit.
That's right.
Switching darters to the Hunter role. And then in the very first week, they found a victory over Obey Alliance, which I think is their most impressive win. Well, not a set win, but like a game win, right? So I think it's going to be a tall task to beat out Energy because Energy were on like this crazy winning streak until they faced off against Obey Alliance last week. They were 5 sets in a row. They lost the first week, both of their sets, up against Arrival and also up against Dignitas. But then since then, they won weeks 2, 3, and 4, lost 1 set against Obey Alliance, defeated Mouse 2-0, and they just seem to have all the momentum in the world. So I don't see SK Gaming even being able to throw a little pebble at this giant.
It's tough. It will be very, very difficult for them. They don't need to win the set. Just sneak one away, and maybe they could leave that door open for Obey. It's not going to be easy. But can we talk a little bit here, since we're in EU anyway, about how much better Mouse have been looking? Their set with Energy, it's a 2-0, but it's not a 2-0. I don't know how to say it. You know what I mean? That was very, very close. Back and forth. Energy had to create a new play. I don't think we've seen in the SPL to beat them. And apparently, I think Emilzy came on into either Mixer Chat or on Twitter, and he said that it was adapting that made that call, where they go all the way around, come all the way in the back of the Fire Giant, sneak in. Apparently, that was an adapting call.
This has reminded me of like the old Season 2, Season 3 Epsilon / Energy days, where even though Energy were behind, they find a way to get back into it through some crazy either split push or just a crazy play. You never expect that. Like, I think that's the, outside of Chaos teleporting in Season 2 Worlds, I've never seen a more like just unexpected Fire Giant defense.
It was absolutely nuts, and I lost my mind in the moment because I couldn't believe it was happening, because we could, from our perspective, we could see it the whole time. We could see it all laid out from them. The timing on it was essentially perfect.
Oh yeah.
They got there basically right when it spawned, and they got and Mouse had it down to half HP. They had a perfect initiation from Maniac as well with that Cerberus. That play, as good as the call was, anything in the chain goes wrong and they all die there.
Sure.
One ward on the back end. They're maybe 2 or 3 seconds later getting to the Fire Giant when it starts up, right? Anyone from Mouse even just turns around and looks behind them, and that falls apart. What a call they make, and it works out perfect.
Yeah, but there's no reason to turn around because that's your fountain. There's no reason for that to be coming from your fountain.
There's not. It's insanity.
So, like, you have wards on the south side. Your hunters are facing the south side. It just happens at the end of the day, and Energy, keeping their streak alive.
It was excellent play from them.
Yeah.
I'm seeing here, Limerick is saying close only counts in, cliches.
Horseshoes and hand grenades.
Cliches is what's happening. Do you agree with that? Is there any moral victory for Mouse in how close they were with Energy? Because I think there is. Energy are so good. Mouse made a roster swap, and they've gotten hot going into group stages before Worlds before.
I think that you speak a lot for that statement, because keep in mind of Season 4, when this roster used to be that Elevate squad, they qualified to Worlds through group play, being able to defeat Dignitas, and the only team they lost to, I believe, was Energy, because Energy was just on fire in that Season 4, and I think that is a moral victory. Despite losing 0-2, I think that once Mouse shows up at placements, they're going to be a threat. Like, just as scary as Splice is for the European teams to face in North America do not want to face Mouse.
No, and how good Mouse look right now really makes it hard for NA representation at Dreamhack, I'm thinking. It's a bit scary now on who's going to be making it, because I think that Obey and Rival feel like locks. Mouse now kind of looks like a lock as well. So then what, one more team maybe from North America, maybe Space Station could try and come through if they're the one that drops down. It is very tough. But the reason why I say in this particular case it matters is because Mouse literally did this last year's Elevate, came through a big surprise that did require a dig collapse, to facilitate
little
that.
Assistance along the way.
It to certainly help, but they've done this very similar path before, and a lot of these same players, and I think they could do it again.
Yeah, I definitely think so. Like we mentioned before, this is a huge momentum swing. Despite the numbers, Mouse is one of these teams that are very unpredictable. Darda's, whether it's support or hunter, he seems to always be performing. You can't really count him out.
Yeah.
Big man Tings has stepped up in a very surprising way. I used to coach him back in Season 3 when I was with Fnatic.
Sure.
And seeing him transition from a support then, where he was just kind of listening to reels, listening to zeros at the time, listening to Maniac, and kind of just going with his flow, to being able to dictate his own gameplay in about less than 2 years worth of time, really impressive stuff.
It is crazy that Tings is to this point now where he's a reliable option. You know, for a while there it was like, let's hope Tings is following through. Let's hope Tings is hitting his stuff this time. I don't think that's the case. I expect Tings to be 100% there now. That's my expectation for him, and it makes this Mouse team so much scarier. I can't wait to watch the way that they play. So it's a lot to keep an eye on in terms of those EU standings and who is it that's going to be the ones that actually make it towards those top two. So I want to ask you a little bit more, I guess, like meta-focused stuff now, like what items we're seeing, what gods we're playing. Golden Blade is being picked up a lot. On Mercury in particular, we're seeing it on Bakasura, Alka, in the SML. Didn't even buy boots. He went with this sort of Golden Blade rush.
Nuts.
Is Golden Blade just a Mercury? Should it just say Mercury in parentheses, or can other gods make that work?
I mean, me personally, I'm not a fan of Golden Blade in general.
Even on Mercury.
It's not my style to play.
Sure.
I like to see it, though. Because of how easy it is to clear minions in the jungle camps. I think it's more about the PvE aspect, about clearing the minions and then rotating to make a play as opposed to killing players individually. Because for 2,200 gold, you're getting 30 physical power, 15% attack speed, 10% movement speed, and then the ability to cleave a few more basic attacks. And obviously Mercury's Major Look is going to allow him to be able to splash that as well, since it procs a basic attack. And that's what makes things a little bit more trickier to get away from Mercury.
And there was this fear, I think, that because the tier 2 of the item, and you can see here the 1,000-fold blade was not gonna have the passive, that you wouldn't be able to build into this one efficiently. But on Mercury in particular, the movement speed is so strong with the way that his passive works. The passive is so strong once he eventually gets to it that it's worth it. Rushing it doesn't seem to hurt him anyway because the Major Look clear speed, if I'm being honest, is not that bad anyway. It's already a fairly strong clear tool that he can afford to pick up this item and sort of accelerate his speed. And I agree, it's not so much about the teamfight presence with the Golden Blade as the clear, but sometimes it's nice, right? If the carries are grouped up back there, or not even just the carries, you can kind of hit the support and the carry at the same time. You know, that extra, it doesn't hurt to have it, but I think it is primarily about that clear speed. I just don't know if other people can make it work as well, because they don't synergize as much off movement speed as Mercury.
Sure.
You know, other people's clear speeds are probably fine anyway.
I mean, like, so if you think about the difference between this item versus Warrior Tabby, you're losing, what, 10 physical power? But because you're getting, what, 10% movement speed, you kind of make up for it because of the Mercury passive. However, Boots gives you 18% movement speed.
Right.
So technically, you're getting more power from the Tabis at the end of the day.
Yes.
If you wanted to go Ninja Tabi, like, that's not a bad idea either, but that would be a little less power front of it. I think, like we mentioned before, it's all about the ability to hit the side minions and just move on with your life. Stop focusing so much time on some of these camps and look for either the initiation or, more importantly, the counter ganks. And a lot of these teams, I'm looking at Space Station, looking at Dignitas, have been prioritizing that counter engage instead, because it's like a judo match where you're literally using your opponent's weight against them, and that's what Dignitas and Space Station have been doing.
It's been so strong. I'm loving this pick right now. I don't know if you need to be auto-buying it on anyone else, but definitely on Merc, I would recommend picking it up. Limerick has said in chat here that he's looking forward to that crisp handshake at the after party. Limerick.
Do you want to give him a preview of what that's going to look like?
Not only is that going to be happening, here's what a chance what that's going to look like right here. Get in there. Yeah. Power.
That was some power right there, let me tell
absolutely.
you.
This is for Limerick to enjoy this. Totally.
That was some power right there, the way you gave it to me.
Totally. What are you offering up here? What can we expect at the
So, as the folks at home know, I like to dance. If you follow me on Twitter, which you should,
What's the tweet? What's the Twitter? You gotta shout it out.
Okay, so my Twitter is IG Anatoliy. Anatoliy.
Oh, is that what I should make my? I was trying to decide what I should make my Twitch. I'll just be IG.
Just put it on my. Actually, wait, hold on. I can type it.
Slide it up on the broadcast you're saying at IG.
Yo. Okay, so it's the same as my Twitch. If you see me there, if you see me on the Twitch chat, that's exactly my Twitter as well. Anyway, so I dance a lot. Main event. Come see me. Dance with me. We're going to have a good time.
Totally. Didn't you dance like 2 miles or something last night?
8 miles.
8 miles.
Hold on, let me show you.
Totally danced 8 miles last night.
Yes,
that's something
I
that'll
did.
happen. You got to go to the after party. If you're all here, you're not going.
So you see like the spike, 12 a.m.
It's pretty insane.
to 3 a.m. Can we get a close-up of this?
I don't think that we can do that.
No? No close-up? Okay. Well, anyway.
Jameson's saying, no, I cannot.
But
sure.
Yeah, 8 miles in 3 hours.
Absolutely.
Tweet it?
Yeah,
okay.
Tweet.
I'll tweet it.
Put it out. Absolutely. So that's something strong, one strong thing you can look forward to. One more thing I want to ask you about, since we're talking about just stuff that's in the meta right now. Where do you see Baron's value? We've had a lot of time, I think, to kind of get used to him, a lot of SPL play, and where we can expect this Baron. He's first pick a lot of the time, ban-worthy sometimes. Sometimes even making it down to the second ban phase. Is he someone you should just be first picking? Is it comp dependent? Is he just fit everywhere? I mean, where do you see Baron right now?
I think, well, I see Baron in like all three positions between mid, support, and solo. That's first off. He has a lot of
viable mid lane too. You feel good?
Very viable mid lane. I think as long as you can not feed your brains out and transition to team fights, he's going to do better things at the end of the day. It doesn't matter if you build him utility style in the solo lane, glass cannon style in the mid lane, or more of just a tanky presence in that support role because of his flexibility. Oh, you showed the tweet. I wasn't trolling. Like, go back to the tweet real quick. Look at the first 3 hours. Can you like control mouse wheel up? No?
This is impressive anyway.
But yeah, like the first 3 hours is where all those steps came in, from midnight to like 3 a.m.
It's pretty wild.
Screenshot.
Yeah, it's just like, but we could see it.
But like, yeah, they have like the 12 a.m. mark there. But anyway, yeah, Baron. So this is very like the meta dictated. Like a lot of teams were like, oh, this is a new god, we're gonna play it. Pele's also getting prioritized.
Pele
to an
looks
extent.
great.
And this is like, it's like an ocean wave that comes in, and then it's going to come right back out. Like, people are going to forget about Baron because the new hotness is coming in.
Yeah.
And that's what it always feels like. Baron can definitely make a lot of plays. I think it shouldn't be first pick, first ban. There are ways to deal with it, like an Odin, Thor as well. Like, anything that can wall him off, I think is going to be a detriment to stopping his presence, being able to gank him at least twice, maybe even 3 times in the solo lane to really shut him down. We've seen plenty of times. It really is. It really is underrated.
Is it underrated?
Nitro.
Private Nitro Nasty got your back on this one, yeah.
But there are ways to deal with him, and I just feel like teams are not prioritizing
Should
Odin
they be
enough.
ganking him more in solo? I feel like he gets just a free pass over there. Is it a free pass? Is it impossible to get him? Or?
It depends, because some Barons have started to rush Breastplate of Valor against your double warrior / assassin.
They'll go like starter right into Breastplate.
Yeah,
right? Like,
or ignore like starter.
or not, no Breastling and no Blessing at all, just right into Breastplate.
Some players will do that as well. It just depends on what they're feeling at the start of the day. Which makes it more difficult to gank the Baron. And if he gets to that level 12 marker, second relic, 3 items deep, he's an absolute nightmare. So I understand why teams are first picking him right now, because you want to have the most flexible god that can also keep himself alive at the end of the day. You don't want to be able to you don't want to dictate every game to babysit your solo laner.
Yeah.
Right? Like, okay, you want to play Guan Yu or you want to play Amaterasu. Well, you're going to need to like leverage some jungle assistants to make sure they don't like die before level 5, for example. And then once they transition after level 12, those 2 gods in particular become nightmares. Similar style to the Baron.
And it's something that I think is really important because a lot of people are really highly valuing the Baron. I think they're right to do so. He's very strong right now, and you can't always see maybe his impact directly, you know, unless it's like the big ultimate. Maybe you don't notice it, but there's this steady chip away at your health, right? There's this steady sustain coming in for the team.
And like, it's just keeping you glued in. Teams or players have started to develop a strategy where they are not trying to stun you at the end of the day. They're just going to keep
trying to pull you,
flicking that ultimate and trying to keep you like around a corner. That's the worst place to be. Is like behind
or like through a wall.
Yeah, behind a wall against the Baron ultimate. It feels like you're literally in quicksand. You cannot do anything if you don't have an escape. And when we've seen several times where Bologna's even use Eagle's Rally plus a dash
and
still can't get away from the Baron ultimate.
It's pretty obnoxious, it can feel like sometimes. And I like that our pros are getting better at it. There's like this PBM play that sticks in my head where he's like ulting by the tier 2 tower, and whoever he's ulting is like Aegising during it, so he keeps them perfectly at the max range without stunning them, and then as soon as Aegis is done, turns back around for the stun and the damage. So it's like, not just the stun is nice, he wants to get the damage when Aegis is over. It's just, I love when we see the high-level players getting the most out of gods like this. And it's not just Baron, right? I mean, where do you see this Pele at? North America is highly valuing it, but maybe Europe are kind of slow playing. I feel like they're not jumping in nearly as much as NA is right now.
Whether it's solo lane, whether it's jungler, Pele has been an absolute nightmare.
So good.
You know, when solo or troll in the Smite minor league can make Pele work in the solo lane, it's busted.
Right, it's something that'll work, yeah.
Like, because like, it's solo or troll we're talking about here, but at the end of the day, I think there's a lot to be said about the mobility from this god. It's not just necessarily the damage, the AoE damage that she provides.
Just like the movement speed.
With the clean, yeah, being able to go from point A to point B is so undervalued, I think, not in the professional scene, but in terms of your casual games, where mobility is key to be, because if you're there at the fight first, you're just going to straight up have the numbers advantage, which should give you the win, and that's what Pele's generally going to do. be there before your own jungler.
And it's not even, I don't even think, as good as her movement is for moving around the jungle, I think too, it's even underrated just in lane, right? Like, let's say a jungler ganks you, you get your jump off or whatever it is, and you're like, okay, that's enough space, I'm just gonna walk away. Not for Pele, right? She just follows you or blinks on you. And she can even afford to auto, and the movement speed penalty is not enough because of how fast she is. She can still stay near you, right? It's so strong. I think you have to be playing way more all-in with Pele than I see sometimes from some of our players because she's so good at sticking on people. She's so good at providing that burst damage and healing and being able to reposition and get back
That
out.
passive is
so
annoying to deal with. If you don't have enough burst damage between your team collectively, you are going to feel that passive in full effect, especially if you're going to be rushing Berserker Shield or whatnot. I've seen players do Berserker Shield, Gladiator Shield as well, like Soul Eater.
Jameson's literally the best.
And just showing a little bit of the Pele action as well. But I can't remember what game it was exactly, but I believe a Pele was at 10%
How cool is that ult? Are you kidding me?
It's pretty cool.
Lightning is it's just,
pretty cool. But
it's just sick.
So I believe there was one game, I forget who exactly was playing it, but this Pele was literally tower diving at 10% health, left the tower at like 60% health after getting the kill.
Right. Like, it's pretty nuts with Pele at this point, and I like that we're seeing her being played a little bit more. There's people who are getting a little bit more confident. Private Nitro, he's back on our Baron discussion. He says Barons 2 might be the best non-ult in the game. I think that's a good topic. You might be right. As long as Athenaton exists, though, I think it's the best non-ult.
Yeah, so...
Confound is nutty.
Strife is good, too.
Strife is pretty
Strife
sick.
is, like, so underrated.
Strife is pretty sick.
Like, in the beginning of Season 5, Discordia was pretty well prioritized before the secondary ban phase. Now teams are kind of, like, slipping and, like, forgetting about it. Now they're all on the Outwash train recently. A little bit of the Zhongqi, not too much. Yeah, Consigned Spirits is pretty good, honestly. The movement speed that you get from it, the healing as well, being able to... Also, just utilizing the Hysteria as well, right? Like the rest of his kit.
And that's the part that you got to make sure you're using enough, is building up the Hysteria. That's when even the ultimate looks crazy. It's one thing when you're getting pulled and you can kind of walk or jump out of it, but when you're getting zip-zoomed back in because that Hysteria is maxed out, I mean, Baron really does get nutty, I agree, but that's a good one. I'm trying to think of some other, what might be the best non-ultimate ability in the game. Confound right now, I think, is the one. I really like what you said about Discordia. She's very strong as well. That passive is also very good from her. That's why we're seeing Discordia.
Looking at the god list real quick.
Yeah. I'm trying to think. I don't know, man. I think it might just be on her pillar.
Calder.
I don't think so. Calder's good.
Calder's really annoying.
I don't know if I can put him up there that high. Scotty Ring is fine. Geb Shield is a good one. Geb Shield's insane. I think that... And this is one more discussion that I want to have before we kind of move on to talking about like minor league and some of the other areas here. Do you think pros just forget about some gods?
Oh, absolutely.
That happens? Yeah. Talk to me a little bit, because we're almost at 100 now. There's so many.
Xing Chen, yesterday, we saw it from Divios. Like, this god was the only god that can fight against Bellona in Season 2 Worlds. Like, it was Sobek, Xing Chen, Bellona, solo lane, nonstop, repeatedly, over and over again. And there was, like, not much Xing Chen at all. In the spring or the summer of Season 5, not much has really changed. Like, he's still a good god. He does percentage damage with his Furious Roar, and you don't want to deal with that percentage damage. I think that teams criminally sleep on the Thor as well.
Yeah, he could definitely be played more.
Global pressure is definitely key to being able to get some of these wins, and Ratatasker has been a little bit more popular simply because in order to guarantee the Thor double tap, you need to put 2 points in the Tectonic Rift, so I think that's why a lot of players are not really going for it. It's very easy to disrupt the Berserker's Barrage. Yeah. It takes a little bit longer of a channel time as opposed to the Ratatasker spin to win. Also, knockups are just a better form of CC than the Anvil of Dawn.
It's crazy how much of these gods get played. I mean, we're scrolling through, and I'm trying to find someone who doesn't get represented. We're seeing it too. James is doing a good job having up on the screen. Guan Yu is getting heavily undervalued right now.
It is so good. I think Hades is also like low-key OP.
Right.
You know what I mean? Just like it's so good.
His burst is so high. I think that Guan Yu is one that definitely is being overlooked, I would say, right now. Someone that we could be seeing a little bit more of. But we have a lot of parity. A lot of gods are getting picked. I think, and we are seeing Susano. I really do think Susano should be played almost every game.
You think so?
He's so freaking good. It's an absurd amount of control from the jungle. His burst is crazy.
Yeah.
His chase down is unparalleled.
He just doesn't have CC immunity, and I think that's why teams don't really prioritize him more often than not. Not being able to get away prevents you from picking up Blink at level 1.
Right. He can't feel very comfortable doing it. He has to put Mad Guy's Cloak in his builds a lot, I feel like, as well. But everyone is also, too. What happened to Thoth? I think it was he had the change where he doesn't proc Mage's Blessing on his one.
Yeah, but that was just like a broken thing as well. Like you're getting all those hits anyway.
There's been there's been a change I feel like to his one where he doesn't get nearly as many benefits from item passives, and that's probably a part of what hurt him some. But I agree.
Like Ao Kuang is amazing.
Yeah, and he's starting to get played a lot more. Minor League is bringing him out.
Yeah.
The SS Quanger, which is of course the name of the ship. I will hear nothing else about this. The SS Quanger is the name of his ultimate. So here's the thing. You should be playing more Ao Kuang, yes. When you play Ao Kuang, use the Admiral Ao Kuang skin so that you have the ship. When you're using the Admiral Ao Kuang skin, execute people so that I can see the big boat and I can call it the SS Quanger.
Have you made that call yet?
I've gotten to, absolutely.
Oh, nice.
I get very loud. Everyone knows this. What up, Kabam? How you doing, buddy? And I say, Ao Kuang, bringing out the SS Quanger, something like that, and I get very excited.
All right.
We got Cyclone and Kabam here. How you doing, fellows? Hinderman says Scotty is being slept on. I don't know.
By who?
I don't know. Who should be playing her? There's a lot of immobile mages in mid. Put Scotty in there. She's basically a mage.
Who would play her? I think Clout would play her.
Sure.
I know Barracuda's played her a lot back in season 3 and 4.
And earlier on, yeah.
That was when Caldir was like really busted though.
Yeah.
And that's because you can get away with going a lot of defense as well.
Mm-hmm.
And I think also you would be, that was during the Mage Hunter meta, where like Chronos and Soul was really good, so you can do Scotty, Chronos, Scotty, Soul, whatever.
Should we be seeing her more with Heartseeker though, right? With that change?
Yeah,
shouldn't we be seeing some
absolutely.
Scotty?
I think Scotty's good. That's why Neith is getting played a little bit more.
Yes.
Because of that Heartseeker. Chiron from Ataraxia was like first picked from the second pick slot,
right,
like in the first 2. So I think Chiron's going to be a little more popular. Because of Heartseeker. So a lot of these hunters should be seeing more playtime as a result.
I think so too. There's definitely some chance. I mean, and this is just an overall Season 5 balance gush that I'm doing. I know there's some gods that are really strong, and I know there's been some talk about the bands looking the same very often, but for the most part, once we're beyond like Freya's, Athena's, that sort of thing, like where they're dominating the metas, I think that we're at the most parity in terms of god representation that we've ever been. I mean, I
agree.
There's so many gods that are picked so often. We see Thanatos getting played. We see Vamana being picked by choice.
That's wild.
People are saying, let's get Vamana.
I don't think Vamana's good competitively.
I agree. Yeah. Well, I don't think we should be picking him. We've seen Chalk. I don't think Chalk should be picked.
Yeah,
I don't think Chalk does anything. We've seen them picked. There's room to play more stuff than ever.
Yeah,
that's insane. And we're right now. Hindu is Splice in the world script. Cyclone, I think so, my dude. I picked you all over Space Station to win.
Same.
And I think that y'all are number 2 for sure.
After defeating E United, I think like their moral is just like through the roof right now.
I do. I think so. Y'all are looking really strong. Wild how big the meta is right now. I 100% agree. I honestly think Splice would be better off in placements. I think that they have a chance to really
farm. You think they would have a better chance?
I think so. Wait. Not only would they get to catch people off guard, but they'd get to come in hot and not like miss out on playtime and stuff.
No, but then you get a better seeding if you get the bye.
That's true.
So you'd want to get that bye.
I don't know how much it's going to matter this year. Can we talk just about, and I was going to have this discussion too a little bit later, so let's go ahead and jump there. There's going to be so many good teams at DreamHack.
Oh yeah.
I don't know how much your seeding even matters. Who at DreamHack do you go, well, I don't want to place Dig. Give me a rival. You know what I mean?
Sure. It's a different pick of poison, yeah.
It's insane now because, and I know there are a lot of people who are sad that they don't get to see international teams there, yada, yada, yada. We're going to have the best teams there, no question. And it's going to be insane.
Every year has been better and better competitively, I think, at Worlds specifically.
Yes.
Super Regionals, outside of Season 2 Super Regionals, I think that was like the most lackluster one. The rest of them has been like pretty solid for the most part. So like Super Regionals and Worlds combined has been getting progressively better year after year, and Season 5 is not going to be any different.
No, it's shaping up to be absolutely hype. I think that's Gavin the Knight. Am I reading that right? Gavin is asking Obey still make top 2. We talked about this a little bit already.
Yeah, there's a small chance. No. There's a very small chance. That Energy can finish 7-3. Obey can still finish 7-3.
Right.
But like it would go to head-to-head. They're tied in head-to-head, and they would go for this past Season 5 performance of Spring and Summer, where clearly Energy winning all of Summer would give them that lead. There is a chance, as I laugh about it, that energy,
it's literally laughing.
That energy lose to SK next week, which would allow Obey to control the rest of their destiny. But then Obey face off against Dignitas, which is not an easy task.
And they don't technically even need to get lose the full set to SK. Even a 2-1 to SK would open the door if Obey 4-0 throughout the rest of the week,
because that would put energy at +7 with 7-3, and that would put Obey at +8 with the 7-3 record.
Right. So then that would mean the records would be the same. I believe the head-to-head would be the same, plus minus if energy dropped even a game to SK would then favor Obey.
And considering SK Gaming defeated Rival last week, not the set-wise, but like one game, took a game from Rival, took a game from Mouse last week, took a game from Obey Alliance in week number 1. It's possible, I guess, if you think about it, but then I look back at Rival, they've been on the downswing a little bit.
They have been a bit, yeah.
So take that with a grain of salt.
Yeah, it's definitely not likely, but it's certainly possible. I'm not betting on it. I will be putting no money on that, but I certainly want to watch that set. And also, I mean, SK doesn't have much to play for there, right? Like, Energy have a lot on the line. They absolutely want to close that out. But, I mean, winning a game there wouldn't change SK's outlook going into this.
No, definitely not. It's not the same how it would change Mouse's moral after they lost to Energy 0-2. Because despite losing 0-2, that was very impressive performance from Mouse. And similar to how they did in Season 4, Elevate style, I think that this team is just going to racket land.
Yeah.
I think we could very easily, or at least I'm going to very easily call Mousesports making it to Worlds from placements.
I think so too. I think it's very. I don't even think that's particularly out on a limb. I think it's I think that's how good they look. That you can feel pretty comfortable saying it. And yeah, if Energy win 2-0, they push Obey out. So that means that the race could be settled as early as that Energy SK set, depending on how.
And is that Tuesday match?
I think that's our first set of the week. It's a bummer. Yeah. But it's definitely still important to know who's third and fourth place, because we should have a clearer idea of who's coming from international, who's coming from minor league, and so who the third and fourth place teams will be placing. And that's actually a good segue into talking about the minor league, because that's who the third and fourth place teams are most likely going to be dealing with, right? Is the minor league and those international teams. And there's been some shakeups. Very Nice to Me are certainly in from the minor league now. There's no chance that they won't make it. And let me just take a step back as well. It's a top 3 that they're going to. They're going to a round robin at the end of the minor league in both regions. They'll have their own round robin to the top 3, and the winner of that will then go into the placements to essentially HRX, and they'll be playing their way towards Dreamhack up against SPL, up against international competition. So you want to be in that top 3. And Very Nice to Me, Optus Gang, and Signum, those guys are locked. They can't not have it.
Oh, yeah. Classified did a good job last week performing against Very Nice to Me. Really dropped the ball, unfortunately, against Sanguine.
That was surprising.
That tight and push, a little risky. I believe Pain Divion was playing Amaterasu, was trying to dazzling offensive under the fountain on somebody, I forget who it was, and lost a lot of DPS on the Titan, which cost them a game, actually.
Yeah, they ended up, unfortunately, dropping on that one. And I don't want to make it seem like I think Classified were heavy favorites there. Sanguine have looked better. I don't think it is 100% free for them, but I think you're right. With the level of experience that Classified have on there, they were the top team. Essentially, that roster with Pain, with Mando Warrior, with Mollusk, they were essentially the team that won in spring, that went to the finals in summer from the SML. So we have high expectations for them. They weren't able to meet it. But what about Armada, man? They have been looking great. They've got a huge chance to make it as well, consistently winning some matches, kind of maybe catching some people off guard. I thought it was going to be Very Nice to Me, Classified, Sanguine fighting for it, maybe even Cryptic before they started to struggle. But Armada have really sort of earned the second place spot, I would say, in the minor league.
So looking at the week 6 schedule, it's Armada versus Classified.
Huge. What?
Whoever wins that is basically guaranteed.
Right.
At that point, because if Armada loses, that would put them at 6-4. Classified would be 6-3. So there's still a chance, I guess, that Classified couldn't make it, depending the results of Sanguine's matchup up against Cryptic. Right. Sanguine should win that matchup. Cryptic have looked like hot garbage.
They've not looked good.
1-7. Like, call it what it is. Like, this team has looked bad. So Sanguine, obviously still show up to play and will get the W. So once they find the victory there, it's going to come down to can Classified close it out at the very last game of the day, which is against ranked All-Stars, which has looked even worse than Cryptic.
Yes, they should be able to win that one. So Sanguine have a very tough matchup against Very Nice to Me. That one could certainly be a big deal for them. Armada versus Classified is the one that I would say is the highlight match to look at on that one. So NA is still, it's a little bit on the top end closer than I would say. EU is kind of the opposite. If we can go over to the EU SML. Optimus Gang and Insignum are just the ones.
Yes.
They're absolutely making it. There's no chance that those two teams don't make it through, and they look way, way better than everyone else. Like, it doesn't look particularly close. But after that, all the other 4 teams are clumped together. It's like a big ball.
Sacred Speedbuff 3 and 5, Poppies 3 and 5, Milky Way 2 and 6, Exordium 2 and 6.
Yeah.
The third place is up for grabs for any
100%.
team.
I do still think, and I give Poppies the benefit of the doubt because of their experience, because they used to be SML quality. You know, they've got a lot of players who were in the bottom of that in Season 4. I still give Poppies some favoritism there, but Sacred Speedbuff have looked a lot better of late. It's hard to say, but man, I have a lot of faith in Optimus Gang. The only set they lost, I believe, was Johnny was not there. And they played 2 sets without Johnny. I believe it was Original filling in, and they still won one of those sets. They only lost one of them. So that team looks very strong. I'm very excited for them, and I still think Poppies are probably going to be able to grab that 3rd spot.
Yeah, looking at the rest of the team, Sacred Speedbuff, I'm just like looking at the players. Maybe Filippo out of Sacred Speedbuff can kind of step it up. Looking at Milky Way and Exordium, I just don't really see the players that can necessarily do it at the end of the day. So it's either Poppies or Sacred Speedbuff to me, which goes like 65% Poppies, 35% for Sacred Speedbuff. But then if I look at the schedule here, Sacred Speedbuff have to face off against Insignum. Not going to be an easy matchup there. Poppies have to go up against Optimus Gang.
Also tough.
That's going to be very tricky. Poppies then closing it out against Exordium should be an easy one. Milky Way, I think, has the easiest matchups of the week going against...
If they win those, they could jump up and take it. They'd be, what, 4 and 6, I think?
Maybe it's Milky Way that can actually get in, just basically looking at the schedule.
Right, so there's 2 ways to sort of evaluate it. If I go off team strength, I pick Poppies. If I go off strength of schedule, I think we could probably give it to Milky Way on that one. So then let's zoom up from that then, right? Those are like the matchups and how we think they're going to go. Realistically, where do you see SML international teams in bottom of SPL? Because that's the placement stage. That's what it looks like, right?
So top to bottom, bottom to top.
Well, just how do you think they'd be competing? Do you think that the likes of International could be beating on SML teams? Do you think SML teams have a chance up against bottom SPL teams? Like, just sort of, where do you end up seeing all those kind of like landing?
So I think that Insignum, Optimus Gang, and Very Nice to Me can beat some of the international teams. I don't think any of the other minor league teams could beat the international teams. I think that there's a good chance that the international teams could beat SK Gaming, if for whatever.
I think Nocturne's good.
Yeah, I think so. LG have not impressed me.
Right.
Especially with some of their roster changes as well.
That's a good one to talk about a little bit here, too.
It's going to be growing pains. Bobby didn't look terrible in his first set, but it didn't look like an SPL caliber team. Like, I didn't see any sort of realistic improvement.
Yeah, you can come over, and I'll talk a little bit more. We gotta get your mic. I think your chain's running across it, but here. But I think that I'm looking for the international teams. Yeah, Jameson, look, come to me. Yeah. I'm sorry, I don't like yelling at you.
Okay, is it good now?
I do yell a bunch. But I think that international teams have a chance. No Ping in Brazil are actually ahead of Black Dragons. That one was huge and surprising. I don't even think they've lost yet.
Yeah.
Nocturnes continue to look insane over in LATAM South, I believe is where they're from. Oceania, I mean, I don't know if Oceania and Southeast Asia are in this conversation. I don't think that they are quite at the level to beat out any SPL teams. But I think that No Ping and Nocturnes absolutely have a chance. In fact, I would favor Nocturnes against any SML team, I think still. I think Nocturnes, I would favor them against SK and any SML team. That's how strong I think that Nocturnes and No Ping look.
I mean, if you look at the roster from Nocturnes, which I have pulled up here.
Sure.
It's Daylon in the solo lane, Smitero in the jungle, it's Lean in the mid lane, Zion 6 is the hunter, Noitulov is the support. They've been leaning, quite literally, on their mid laner's performance.
Yes.
Pun definitely intended there. Smitero has been definitely just a wild character, honestly. The way he is aggressive, whether it's like any lane he ganks, it doesn't matter. He's always just allowing the rest of his team that momentum moving forward. And they gave United a run for their money, I believe, at the Summerland or Springland. I can't remember which land it was.
The best is the problem. No, he wasn't.
And if any team is going to beat an SPL team, it's got to be Nocturnes.
Yeah, I think Nocturnes is the one that I would give some favoritism to as well. CLG, here's David just putting this in, that CLG looks like maybe the worst out of all the SPL teams. I don't know. I think I would take CLG over LG still, but I think it's closer. I give Trifecta a lot of respect right now. I know they had some troubles towards the start of the split losing Mask, but I think that Sam has started to mesh with that roster. So let's try and do, and obviously we'll do a much more in-depth placement stage analysis next week when we're at the end of week 6. We know who all is represented from each region. We can kind of go more in depth on it and towards the beginning. But right now, I would say that I think that LG and SK are my bottom SPL teams right now. Okay. And I think that they would probably struggle up against Nocturnes. I think so.
I think so, yeah. If they don't have like an early game lead, like that's the difference between some of these SPL teams and international teams, is that when an international team gets a lead, they kind of like don't go for objectives all the time.
They don't know how to close them out.
Yeah, like they just don't know how to end games like correctly, and that's been the biggest struggle for them to finally get their time in the sun. Whereas the rest of these teams have definitely got that edge over them. So even if like LG and SK Gaming do fall behind early, they could definitely drag on. As long as they have a composition that can hold in the late game, I still kind of favor SK Gaming / LG in terms of finding the victories over the international teams until I see it happen. Like the one time we saw a victory was what? ALG losing to Nocturnes at Season 3 Worlds.
I believe so.
In the placements where it was a best of 1. I believe.
Yeah, I think that's one of the only time we've seen that.
Yeah, like that's the only time we've ever seen an international team take an actual victory over an SPL caliber team.
I'm super excited to see it. And Tings, what's up, man? You missed us earlier. We were gassing Mouse, so I'm sorry you missed it.
Big man, I was actually saying how when I was coaching you, like the leaps and bounds you've made between Season 3, you know, kind of like the little kid on the block, listening to. Listening to mommy and daddy, zeros and reels, fighting it out and comms and whatnot. Meanwhile, Maniac is just like fucking off in the corner kind of deal. But yeah, to see you go from that support role to the mid lane now, the way you've been performing for Mousesports has been very impressive to me.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Mouse. We both have you all making it to Dreamhack as well, Tings, through placements pretty easily. I was so bad on Fnatic. I mean, and that's what we were saying earlier, and not just to gas you up. We literally were saying this earlier. I hope you'll look at the VOD if you have time later on, or I'll upload on YouTube. But man, I thought there was a time when Mouse couldn't have called your number and counted on it, you know, like towards the beginning of Season 5. But now I expect them to be calling your number and you executing every time. That's where y'all are at. I think this Mouse team is certainly strong. I'm not even looking towards like worrying about y'all in placements.
Yeah, I think Mousesports, like just as scary as Splice will be if they don't make HRX off the top 2, like Mousesports will probably be even scarier because of how unpredictable they are.
Those are some real matches I'm really looking forward to.
Can you imagine Splice up against Mousesports in placements?
That's huge. I think Splice could. I think that's a good matchup. I think Splice Rival are good matchups because I think Rival are very much dropping down as well. We talked a little bit about how we think those bottom end matchups are going to go, right? SML, International, and bottom end SPL. I think those are closer than people might think. Maybe not the minor league ones, but definitely those international matchups. I'm very excited to see the top end of the placement stages as well and how NA can kind of step up.
So when we talk about minor league teams, right, we also got to keep in mind what an impressive performance Oxygen Supremacy did in Season 4. Spring Gauntlets.
Yes.
They came up, they defeated Team ALG, Noble, and another team I'm blanking on. But they found 3 set wins, and then they almost beat In Memory of Gabe as well. They went 7, they took 1 game out of the best of 3 from them, so they went 7-2. Yeah. They've played like 7 hours in a row, 8 hours. It was not an easy journey for them. Now,
losing to SEA, Tings, shut up. No.
So, I mean, granted, that was SPL caliber players.
Right.
Venenu, Kiki, Skilladon was there, Data Remember.
So some.
Yeah. I mean, like Venenu.
Yeah, Venenu,
Season 4 Kiki, Worlds MVP.
Yes. I'm saying Venenu and Kiki, and then you went off on a
I think Skilladon has a great ceiling.
In Season 4.
Sure.
I don't know right now.
I don't know why he's not like playing in Season 5. I'm sure he's focused more on school.
Sure, and he's allowed to do that. I'm just saying right now with the focus that's put in.
Yeah.
No. I'm not saying that he can't, but I'm just saying right now, no. Yeah. But I'm right there with you. But yeah, messing with their emotions. No, don't listen to him. Tings, all are going to do fine. I'm absolutely looking forward to it. So we're talking about how close it is in the placement stages, right? And how there's going to be some hype matchups. Just how important do you think those buys are then, with how close they are? I mean, a team like E United, if they were to drop down, a team like Energy, if they were to drop down, I mean, we gotta think they're gonna make it through, right? I mean, how much importance do you put on those buys?
Very. Look at Dignitas in season 4.
That's a good point.
They dropped down to the placements, losing to Rival 0-3, and then losing to Energy and Elevate, and they found their victories, I think, over the other North American teams, but that's all it took was just like getting to placements because they couldn't get an auto buy based off of the Rival matchup. The rest of their journey was put to a halt, and that was a roster that could have clearly even maybe won Worlds with that kind of all-star power.
Yeah.
And if, let's say Energy drop down, okay, I don't expect Energy not making Worlds, even if they do go.
Yes, I expect them to make it, yes.
But, Rival might not make it through placements.
There's a chance.
Space Station Gaming might not make it through placements.
I think Space Station more so than Rival. What's the North American team, not Space Station or Splice, that you think has a shot? Because what is that? Trifecta, CLG. And
if
LG?
there's going to be one, it's got to be CLG.
Even over Trifecta?
Yes.
I don't know, man. I get it. I said this last week, and I'm not trying to beat up on CLG. Mm-hmm. I don't think I can give them the benefit of the doubt anymore. Sure. All season I've been doing it, and I'm like, man, this CLG team could be top 2. Why aren't they? I don't get it. Their squad is stacked. And I don't know if I can give them the benefit of the doubt.
So the player names have a lot of, highlight.
So much, yes.
So much all-star power behind their names.
agree.
Similar to Dignitas in Season 4, and they kind of crumbled. But at the same time, I think their ceiling is just so high.
Yeah.
I think, they have not been performing of what they're expected of.
Yes.
And
100%.
whatever reasoning that is, they better fix that come placements because
it's the kind of thing that could change at LAN, right?
Yes, it definitely
absolutely
could.
Is. Yes, and I give you that.
Eager in Season 3 looked different between online and on LAN as well.
Right, and I think that's true, right? Not only that, but they're not. These aren't a team full of rookies anymore, right? Like Jigs has been playing for a long time. Final K has been playing. Homie is on this squad.
Yep.
I mean, Herwin was on Fat Chunks Assemble, and fragging back then. Snoopy is a TSM. Cog Red guy, when they were fragging out. So, I mean, there's certainly talent.
Can't forget Recent Gaming.
I can. This is the kind
Recent
of team.
Gaming.
Oh, man. This is the kind of team that I think in a LAN environment, when they're all together, when they're, having fun, getting a chance to talk about the game, and they're playing in these big matches on the stage, that certainly could rise up. But I don't know if I want to count out this Trifecta team either, dude. I think that maybe there's a chance. They've looked better with Sam in there. They still have Zap on this team.
Sure.
Scary D, if he can play up to the Scary D levels, that team's scary too. Trifecta certainly has some.
I don't know. Sanford Soccer during the summer SML LAN, was it?
Yes, I believe
he showed
he was
up,
there.
or was it the spring?
I believe he. I think that they
lost to Insignia.
NA lost in summer.
So
they won in spring. Yes.
That's right, and he wasn't part of the spring roster.
I don't think so.
No, because it was Mollis there. So yeah. I was not thoroughly impressed by Sanford Soccer in the LAN environment. Yeah. Online and LAN is two entirely different beasts. I think that's the thing that's holding me back from putting Trifecta over CLG.
Yeah, and look at this. Riley, 2W. Thank you for having my back. Trifecta are the sleeper team. I can handle that totally.
I could see it.
Chat's got my back.
I could see them being like a little, sleeperish, but I think CLG is way
Your
more.
boy's on that team, right? You don't have Zap's back?
Yeah. That doesn't mean I have to. That doesn't mean I think he's gonna make it.
I have Zap's back in every situation, but I mean, come on.
It's Sanford Soccer. No, I'm joking.
No,
but
sure.
At the end of the day, I think, like I said, LAN performances is different than online. I just don't see a realistic scenario that Trifecta can make it.
Okay. So we're getting close to the end. We'll wrap it up on this one. I want to ask you this question, and it's not to be PM, but we're getting close to closing it down. SK at this placement stage, how well do you think they can do? Because they've struggled all year online. Mm-hmm. Nothing has come up, but in placement stages they're going to be playing up against SML, International, some NA teams you haven't gotten to see them play against. Sure. There's an argument to be made that EU is so good that maybe SK aren't as bad as their record says because of how good EU is. What do you think are the chances they could be smacking around the likes of CLG and Trifecta or even others?
So I think that SK beat any minor league team or any international team that they face off against, and then immediately lose against any other team in the SPL.
Even LG? You would take LG over them at this point, or?
Well, would they face off?
I don't know exactly how the brackets will look. We'll definitely go more in detail on the exact bracket, but I mean, if they were to play...
If they were to play, yeesh.
That's a tough matchup.
I think LG would win that.
Sure.
Because I think LG is just so aggressive that it's hard to contain them. Like, knowing how Weekend wants to play, knowing the kind of calls that he's made in the past before in Season 2 with AFK and whatnot, I think that they're going to lean a lot on the solo lane and, like, really start punishing out all of SK Gaming. Nika's better be prepared.
I think so too. I think it's going to be very tough for them. But I think SK are better than their record show.
Ducky better be prepared.
I think it's better than their record belies because EU is just gross. We talk about how good Mouse is. We think that they're a world's caliber team. I mean, if that's the worst other team for SK to play, there's 100% chance that SK surprises some people at LAN, I think. But we'll go more in depth in LAN and all that stuff next week when we have like the full picture of where everyone's going to be shaping out. I think console is going to go a week beyond the next show we have because they have to play on that Monday.
That's right.
So we'll talk a little bit more about console later on when we have that cleared up. But we can go in more detail on all that stuff later on. But I mean, Totally, I think you made it. How do you feel? You made it through the day. You made it through the show. You feel good?
Yeah.
Yeah? You knocked it out. You're gonna come back in next week. We can just get rid of Thom.
If that's what you want.
Did Thom lose this? Did he lose his job today?
You could just like put the little cross over Thom's show, and you could just make it the Finch show.
Yeah.
Just like, and then you always put featuring, and that way you'll always have a guest as well, because it's your show.
Right. If Thom left, it would for sure be my show. Yeah.
So.
If we grabbed Totally. But absolutely, thank y'all for watching one more time. What we're going to do, I'm going to have the VODs up on YouTube again. It's Finch on YouTube, ! YouTube in the chat, I believe. We'll pull it up for you. You can go make sure that you're subbed or whatever. I'm typing it in. And I'm right. There's a command. I know how to be a streamer today. I'm a
Strummer?
big time streamer. One more time, though. Thanks, everybody, for watching. We'll see you again next week. Thanks for hanging out.